Commander Taeho floated in the observation deck of the research station, watching the alien sunrise paint the sky of Kepler 442b in shades of purple and gold. 3 years had passed since humanity's first successful jump beyond the solar system. 3 years of building this small outpost on a world that should have been empty and dead. Instead, they had found something that changed everything. The metal structure rose from the planet's surface like a twisted spear, reaching toward the stars. It hummed with energy that their instruments couldn't fully understand. The locals had started calling it the beacon, though Taeho suspected it was much more than that. "Commander, you need to see this." Dr. Sunmi's voice crackled through his comm unit. She sounded excited and worried at the same time. Taeho pushed off from the window and floated toward the research lab. The Europa station wasn't large, just a collection of connected modules that housed 37 people. They were the furthest humans had ever traveled from home, and most days that felt like both a blessing and a curse. Sunmi was bent over, her workstation, when he arrived. Her dark hair had escaped from its tie and hung around her face as she studied lines of alien text scrolling across multiple screens. She had been working on translating the beacon's signals for months. "What did you find?" Taeho asked, pulling himself down into a chair beside her. "I think I know what this thing is," she said without looking up, "and I think I know why it's here." She touched a control and the largest screen cleared. New text appeared, but this time it was in Korean. The translation was rough, but readable. "Warning to all who travel the void between stars," Sunmi read, aloud. "The devourers have awakened. They spread like fire across the galaxy. They consume knowledge and grow stronger. They cannot be stopped by weapon or wall. They learn from every defeat. They adapt to every trap. 50,000 cycles have passed since they first walked among the stars. We, the Vorthak, leave this message as our final gift to those who come after. Beware the species that calls itself human." Taeho felt the blood drain from his face. "That can't be right." "I've checked it 12 times, Sunmi said. "The language is ancient, but the meaning is clear. This beacon isn't just a monument. It's a warning. About us." Before Taeho could respond, another voice interrupted them. "Commander, you both need to get to communications right now." It was Jiwoo, and he sounded scared. They found Jiwoo hunched over his equipment in the communications center. Banks of monitors showed wave patterns and signal analysis data. His face was pale as he pointed to one of the screens. "I've been picking up transmissions," he said. "Encrypted, highly advanced. I thought they were just cosmic background noise at first, but the patterns are too regular, too intelligent." "From where?" Taeho asked. "That's the problem," Jiwoo replied. "They're coming from everywhere, all around us, and they're talking about us." He played an audio file. The sounds were strange, like music mixed with static, but the computer had attempted a translation. Words appeared on the screen as the alien voices spoke. "Council Session 4847 now in session. Agenda Item 1, Status of Containment Around Specimen. 2847. Specimen 2847 has exceeded all projections. Population growth rate is 300% above estimates. Technological development has accelerated beyond acceptable parameters. Recommended action? Continue interference protocols. Redirect asteroid 4947 Alpha to delay space expansion. Introduce computer virus strain 23B to slow artificial intelligence research. If these measures fail, we may need to consider more direct intervention." The transmission ended. The 3 humans sat in silence, staring at the screen. "Specimen 2847, Sunmi whispered. "Earth. They've been watching us," Jiwoo said. "Controlling us, holding us back." Taeho's hands clenched into fists. "For how long?" Jiwoo brought up more files. "Based on these transmissions, At least 3,000 years, maybe longer. They call themselves the Galactic Council. 12 species that control this entire region of space. And they think we're dangerous, Sunmi added, looking back at her translation of the beacon. The Devourers. What happened to the Vorthak? Taeho asked. Sunmi was already working on that question. She pulled up more sections of the beacon's message. They were like us, young species, fast learners. The council tried to contain them, too, but it didn't work, so they did something else. What? They destroyed them, completely, made it look like a natural disaster. The Vorthak's home system went supernova 50,000 years ago, but according to this, it wasn't natural. Jiwoo was monitoring the alien communications again. There's more traffic today than I've seen all month. Something has them worried. Us, Taeho said simply. We weren't supposed to get this far this fast. We broke their containment. Sunmi stood up and began pacing in the small space. Think about it. Every disaster in human history, every setback, the Dark Ages, the plagues, the wars that held back scientific progress. What if none of it was natural? What if they've been pulling strings for thousands of years? Jiwoo added, making sure we never developed too quickly. But we did anyway, Taeho said. Humans are stubborn like that. He walked to the porthole and looked out at the beacon. The alien structure seemed different now, not just a monument to a dead civilization, but a gift, a warning from the past to help humanity prepare for what was coming. Sir, Jiwoo said quietly, there's something else. The transmissions mention a fleet, something called the Cleansing Protocol. They're debating whether to activate it. When? Soon. Maybe months. Maybe weeks. Taeho turned back to his crew. Sunmi had gone pale, but her eyes were determined. Jiwoo looked scared but resolute. These were good people, smart people, and they represented the best of humanity. We need to get this information back to Earth, Taeho said. All of it. The beacon's warning, the Council's transmissions, everything. What good will that do? Sunmi asked. If they have the technology to destroy entire star systems, what can Earth do? Taeho smiled grimly. What humans have always done. We adapt. We learn. We survive. He looked back at the beacon. The Vorthak tried to warn us. Now it's our turn to make sure their sacrifice wasn't wasted. And if the Council decides to activate this cleansing protocol, then they're going to learn why they were right to be afraid of us in the first place. Outside, the alien sun continued to rise, casting long shadows across a world where humanity had just learned they were never alone. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but it was also full of enemies who had been watching and waiting for thousands of years. The question now was whether humanity could become what they needed to be fast enough to survive what was coming. Engineer Hyunwoo cursed as sparks flew from the damaged control panel. The mining vessel Soul's Pride had been limping through space for 3 days after their FTL drive suffered a catastrophic failure near the asteroid belt. What should have been a routine cargo run to the outer colonies had turned into a fight for survival. Status report, Captain Bin Ho called from the bridge. Drive core is completely fried, Hyunwoo replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. But I think I can jury-rig something. The quantum resonance chamber is intact, and if I can reroute power through the navigation array... He trailed off as an idea formed in his mind. It was crazy, but crazy had kept humanity alive this long. Instead of trying to repair the standard FTL system, what if he created something entirely new? 3 hours later, Hyunwoo activated his makeshift device. The ship didn't jump through hyperspace like normal. Instead, it simply appeared instantly at their destination, 2 light-years away. No transition time, no energy buildup, 1 moment. They were drifting near Jupiter. The next, they were in orbit around Mars. How? Captain Bin Ho asked, staring at the navigation display in disbelief. I'm not sure, Hyunwoo admitted. I was trying to create a quantum tunnel for the damaged drive core, but somehow I opened a hole in space itself. We didn't travel through hyperspace. We skipped it entirely. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbital shipyards, Captain So Young was dealing with problems of her own. The defense fleet had been tracking unusual gravitational readings around Jupiter for weeks. The patterns were too regular to be natural, but too subtle to be detected by standard sensors. "Deploy the deep space probes," she ordered her crew. "I want to know what's causing these anomalies." The probes launched silently, their advanced sensors reaching out into the darkness. What they found changed everything. Massive structures hung in the void around Jupiter, each one larger than Earth's moon. They were perfectly invisible to normal detection methods, hidden by technology that bent light and gravity around them. But the probe's quantum sensors could see through the deception. "Captain," her sensor operator called out, his voice shaking. "There are dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They've been there for... The computer estimates thousands of years." So Young studied the sensor data. The structures were clearly artificial, with smooth curves and geometric patterns that no natural process could create. More disturbing were the energy readings. These weren't dead hulks floating in space. They were active, powered, and very much operational. "They're watching us," she realized. "They've been watching us all along." On Mars, scientist Dong Min was celebrating what he thought would be his greatest achievement. The self-replicating nanobots he had designed for terraforming were working better than he had ever hoped. In just 2 weeks, they had transformed a barren valley into something that looked almost like Earth. The nanobots were supposed to be simple machines, programmed to break down Martian soil and create a more Earth-like atmosphere. But something unexpected was happening. They were adapting, learning, becoming more efficient with each generation. "Look at this," he told his assistant, Young Jin. "The latest batch has redesigned their own molecular structure. They're 400% more efficient than the original design." "Is that safe?" Young Jin asked, watching the tiny machines swarm over a rock formation. "They're following their programming," Dong Min said. "Make Mars more livable. They're just finding better ways to do it." That night, everything changed. Dong Min was awakened by alarms screaming throughout the research facility. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as he stumbled toward his lab. Young Jin met him in the corridor, her face pale with fear. "The lab is under attack," she said. "Unknown hostiles. They appeared out of nowhere." They reached the lab to find the security doors had been melted through. Inside, strange figures in environmental suits were destroying equipment with weapons that fired beams of pure energy. They moved with inhuman grace, their movements too fluid to be human. "Stop!" Dong Min shouted. "What are you doing?" One of the figures turned toward him. Through the helmet's visor, he could see something that definitely wasn't human. The face was elongated, with large black eyes and skin that seemed to shimmer like oil. The creature raised its weapon toward Dong Min, but before it could fire, something incredible happened. The nanobots erupted from every surface in the lab. They swarmed over the intruders like a living tide, covering their weapons and suits. The alien technology began to spark and fail as the nanobots analyzed and disrupted their systems. The creatures fled, but not before Dong Min heard them speaking in a language that sounded like music mixed with static. His computer attempted a translation, displaying fragmentary words on the screen. Containment, compromised, accelerated development, report to Council. Back on Earth, Admiral Young-soo was coordinating humanity's response to these revelations. The message from Taeho's team had reached Earth just hours before reports started flooding in from across the solar system. The invisible watchers around Jupiter, the attack on Mars, the impossible new drive technology. "How long until the fleet arrives?" he asked his aide. 6 hours, sir. Every available ship is converging on Earth." Young-soo nodded grimly. He had spent his entire career preparing for humanity's first contact with alien life. He had imagined many scenarios, but none of them involved discovering that aliens had been secretly controlling human development for thousands of years. The tactical display showed Earth's defenses. They were impressive by human standards, but compared to the technology they had glimpsed, they seemed pitiful. Energy weapons that could melt through reinforced steel, cloaking devices that could hide structures the size of moons, FTL technology that was centuries ahead of anything humanity possessed. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission. Source unknown, but it's coming from inside the solar system. Put it through." The main screen flickered, then showed a figure that was clearly not human. Its skin was pale and translucent, and its head was crowned with what looked like crystalline growths. When it spoke, its voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am First Speaker Velthar of the Galactic Council. Your species has been under our protection for 3,000 of your years. That protection has now ended." The alien's image flickered as the transmission strengthened. "You have exceeded the parameters set for your development. You have broken containment. You have forced our hand." Admiral Young-Su stepped forward. "This is Admiral Young-Su of Earth Defense Command. We want to talk." "There is nothing to discuss," Velthar replied. "The Council has voted. Humanity has been classified as a level Omega threat to galactic stability. Immediate action is required." The transmission cut to static, then cleared to show space around Earth. Massive ships were decloaking, their hulls gleaming with alien metal and strange energy patterns. There were hundreds of them, surrounding Earth like a cage of steel and fire. "Surrender is your only option," Velthar's voice echoed across all communication channels. "Resist, and your entire species will be cleansed from existence." Admiral Young-Su looked at the tactical display. Earth's entire fleet was hopelessly outnumbered. But as he watched, something unexpected began to happen. Ships were arriving that weren't on any official registry. Mining vessels like the Souls, Pride, research ships, even converted civilian craft. And they all carried the same modifications that Hyun-Woo had created. The same impossible drive technology that let them appear anywhere instantly. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "I'm getting reports from across the system. The nanobots from Mars. They're everywhere. Every human installation, every ship, every outpost. They've been spreading for weeks without anyone noticing." Young-Su smiled grimly. Maybe humanity wasn't as helpless as he had thought. The aliens wanted a fight. They were about to learn what happened when you cornered the most stubborn species in the galaxy. Ambassador Hai-Wan stood in the center of the most magnificent chamber she had ever seen. The Galactic Council's Judgment Hall orbited the galactic core, where billions of stars created a backdrop of swirling light and color. The chamber itself was vast, with floating platforms arranged in a perfect circle around a central area where she now waited. On each platform sat representatives of the Council species. Some looked almost human, while others were so alien that Hai-Wan had trouble understanding what she was seeing. Crystalline beings that sang instead of spoke. Creatures of pure energy contained in mechanical bodies. Ancient entities that seemed to be made of living stone. "Specimen 2847 will present itself for judgment," announced the Council arbitrator. Zelthak of the Christine Empire was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Its body made of what looked like living diamond that caught and reflected the light of the galactic core. "My name is Haewon Kim," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "I represent humanity, not Specimen 2847. We are people, not test subjects." A sound like breaking glass echoed through the chamber. Haewon realized it was Zelthak laughing. "You mistake tolerance for acceptance," the arbitrator said. "You are here because the Council requires data before proceeding with sterilization protocols. Nothing more." Heywan felt a chill run down her spine, but she kept her expression calm. She had expected this. The message from Taeho's team had prepared Earth for the truth about the Council's intentions. The charges against your species are severe, Zelthak continued. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing images of human space. Uncontrolled expansion rate. You have spread to 14 star systems in less than 50 years. Our projections indicated this should have taken you 500 years. The display changed to show technological developments, ships, weapons, computers, all advancing at impossible speeds. Technological acceleration beyond all containment parameters. You have developed quantum tunneling, self-replicating artificial life and consciousness transfer in defiance of our intervention protocols. More images appeared. Humans working alongside alien species that Heywan didn't recognize. Most concerning of all, viral adaptation. You corrupt other species with your ideas. 17 civilizations that we had declared primitive and unworthy of advancement are now showing signs of technological and social development. This is your doing. Heywan took a deep breath. We call it friendship. We help those who need help. We share knowledge because knowledge belongs to everyone. The sound of breaking glass filled the chamber again, but this time it came from multiple council members. This is precisely the problem, said another voice. A being that looked like a walking tree spoke from one of the platforms. Your species cannot be contained or controlled. You spread like a plague, infecting everything you touch with your chaotic growth patterns. We offer gifts, not infection, Heywan replied. The species you call primitive have their own wisdom to share. We learn from them as much as they learn from us. A new voice joined the conversation, transmitted through quantum communicators from Earth. Dr. Jin Ho appeared as a hologram beside. Heywan, honored council members, he began. I am Dr. Jin Ho Park, Earth's chief xenobiologist. I have studied the species that Ambassador Heywan mentioned. In every case, human contact has led to reduced conflict, increased cooperation, and solutions to problems that had plagued these civilizations for centuries. Irrelevant, Zelthak declared. Order must be maintained. The galaxy has been stable, under council guidance for 50,000 years. Your species threatens that stability. What about the Vorthak? Heywan asked suddenly. Were they a threat to stability too? Silence fell over the chamber. The crystalline arbitrator's body dimmed, noticeably. The Vorthak chose extinction over compliance, Zelthak said finally. Their fate was their own decision. You destroyed them, Dr. Jinho said. An entire civilization wiped out because they wouldn't accept your control. They were given the same choice you are being offered now, the tree-like being interjected. Submit to council authority, or face the consequences. Heywan looked around the chamber at the 12 council species. They were ancient, powerful, and completely certain of their righteousness. But she could see something else in their alien features. Fear. You're afraid of us, she said. All of this, the containment, the control, the threats. You're terrified of what humanity represents. We fear nothing, Zelthak replied, but its crystalline body flickered with unstable light. You fear change, Heywan continued. You've built a galaxy where nothing grows, nothing learns, nothing becomes better than it was. You've created a perfect prison and called it paradise. Dr. Jinho stepped forward in his hologram. The 17 species we've been working with have made incredible advances. The Kithara have solved their energy crisis. The Mordan have ended a civil war that lasted 3,000 years. The Veltai have cured a plague that was killing their children. None of this was authorized, the tree being said. These species were quarantined for good reason. They were quarantined because they might have become competition, Heywan shot back. Just like humanity was contained because we might have challenged your authority. Zelthak rose from its platform, towering over the chamber. Enough. The evidence is clear. Humanity has violated every containment protocol. You have spread beyond your designated boundaries. You have developed prohibited technologies. You have contaminated protected species with your chaotic ideologies. The other council members nodded or made sounds of agreement. The verdict is unanimous, Zelthak announced. Humanity is hereby classified as a Class Omega unlawful species. You are too dangerous to exist in a civilized galaxy, Haywan felt, her heart stop. She had known this was coming, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. The penalty for Class Omega classification is total extinction, the arbitrator continued. Every human world will be sterilized. Every human ship will be destroyed. Every trace of your species will be removed from the galaxy. When? Dr. Jinho asked quietly. A new voice answered from the shadows at the edge of the chamber. A figure stepped forward, humanoid but clearly alien, with skin that seemed to absorb light and eyes like black stars. The extermination fleet launched. From our staging area 3 years ago, the figure said. I am Velthar, Council Enforcer. The cleansing of your home system will begin in approximately 6 hours. Hay-1 staggered. 3 years ago, before they had even discovered the beacon, before they knew the Council existed. You were planning this all along, she whispered. Contingency plans have been in place for centuries, Velthar replied. Your species development has been monitored constantly. When you exceeded acceptable parameters, the fleet was automatically dispatched. Dr. Jinho's hologram flickered as emergency alarms sounded in the background on Earth. The fleet is dropping out of hyperspace now, he reported. Massive ships, thousands of them. Haywan closed her eyes. Humanity had fought so hard to reach the stars, only to be told they didn't belong there. But then Dr. Jinho's voice changed. Instead of despair, she heard something that sounded almost like satisfaction. Ambassador, he said, please inform the Council that Commander Sung-Ho sends his regards from the captured monitoring station at Jupiter. The Council chamber erupted in confused voices as several platforms tried to contact their monitoring networks simultaneously. That's impossible, Zelthak said. Our stations are undetectable by primitive technology. Dr. Jinho smiled grimly. In his hologram. Commander Sung-Ho also asked me to tell you that humanity has been tracking your fleet movements for 8 months. We know where you've been, where you're going, and what you're planning. Furthermore, he continued as chaos spread through the Council chamber, the nanobots that you tried to destroy on Mars have been quite busy. They've been preparing for this day much longer than you realize. Velthar stepped forward, his dark eyes blazing. It matters not. Your entire species cannot stand against the combined might of the Council fleet. Haywan looked up at the swirling stars of the galactic core and smiled. You're about to find out just how wrong you are. The Council's extinction fleet dropped out of hyperspace expecting to find a single star system with one inhabited planet and a few primitive space stations. Instead, they found something that made their commanders question their sensors. Lieutenant. Bo-Ram stood on the bridge of the battleship New Seoul, watching the alien fleet emerge from the void. She was young for a fleet commander, but these were desperate times that called for desperate measures. Behind her, holographic displays showed the true scope of what the Council was facing. All ships, this is Bo-Ram. Welcome to the party, she said into her communicator. Let's show our guests what humans do when we're told we can't exist. Around her, space filled with vessels bearing the insignia of humanity. But these weren't just Earth ships. Sleek vessels from the hidden colonies on Kepler 442b appeared alongside converted mining rigs from the asteroid belt. Research ships from the outer colonies materialized next to massive construction platforms that had been secretly building in the empty spaces between stars. The Council fleet numbered in the thousands, their ships massive and gleaming with alien metal. But humanity had brought 50,000 vessels to the fight. Impossible, breathed the Council fleet commander, Admiral Zektar, from his flagship. Our intelligence indicated they had barely 200 ships. His tactical officer, a being, with multiple arms and compound eyes, worked frantically at his station. "Sir, I'm reading human signatures from 12 different star systems. They have colonies we never detected." Engineer Jae Sung activated the next phase of humanity's plan from his position aboard a converted asteroid mining platform. He had spent months integrating alien technology recovered from the monitoring stations with human engineering principles. The result was something neither species could have achieved alone. All planetary defense networks, this is Jae Sung, light them up. Across the solar system, asteroids that had seemed dead and empty suddenly came alive with weapons batteries. Mining stations revealed themselves to be heavily armed fortresses. Even some of the smaller moons began moving under their own power, guided by the nanobots that had been secretly converting them for months. Mars itself joined the battle, its surface launching thousands of missiles while orbital platforms that had been disguised as weather satellites opened fire with beam weapons that could cut through alien armor like paper. "This is not possible," Admiral Zektar repeated, watching his tactical display fill with threats. "They are a primitive species. They should not have this technology." His science officer, a crystalline being similar to the council arbitrator, chimed with distress. "Sir, these weapons are using our own technology against us. They have somehow reverse-engineered and improved upon our designs." In the captured monitoring station near Jupiter, Commander Seung Ho coordinated the human response. The station's alien computers had given humanity access to council communications, fleet movements, and most importantly, their technology. "Phase 2, he ordered. "Release the swarm." From hidden locations throughout the solar system, clouds of nanobots erupted into space. But these were not the simple terraforming bots that Dongmin had originally created. Months of evolution and improvement had turned them into something far more sophisticated. The nanobots flowed through space like living metal, attaching themselves to council ships and immediately beginning to analyze and disrupt their systems. Shields failed as the nanobots learned to phase through them. Weapons stopped firing as their targeting systems were reprogrammed. Life support systems were invaded and modified to create environments hostile to their original crews, but perfectly suited for human occupants. Admiral Zektar watched in horror as his fleet began turning against itself. Ships that had been under his command moments before were now firing on their former allies. "Retreat to hyperspace," he ordered. "Emergency jump protocols." But the nanobots had reached the hyperspace drives first. Instead of jumping to safety, several council ships found themselves transported directly into human-controlled space, where boarding parties were waiting to welcome them. Back in the council chambers, the arbitrator Zelthak watched the battle unfold through quantum communications. The impossible was happening. A species they had dismissed as primitive was not just defeating the council fleet, they were converting it. "How?" it asked the chamber. "How did they prepare for this?" Agent Q Min stepped out of the shadows at the edge of the chamber. She had been assigned to monitor the council's proceedings, but now she removed a device from her ear that had been altering her appearance. "Because we've been watching you as long as you've been watching us," she said, her alien disguise fading, "to reveal a perfectly human woman." The council chamber erupted in shocked sounds and voices. "I am Agent Q Min of Earth Intelligence," she continued calmly. "I have been stationed here for 15 years, feeding information back to Earth about council operations, fleet movements, and technological capabilities." Zelthak's crystalline form blazed with fury. "Impossible! Our security protocols are absolute." "Your security protocols assumed you were dealing with a species that thought like you," Q Min replied. "Humans think differently. We don't see authority as absolute. We don't see rules as unchangeable. When you told us we couldn't leave our solar system, we started planning how to leave it without you noticing." She gestured to the holographic display showing the battle. "When you told us we couldn't contact other species, we found ways to communicate that you wouldn't detect. When you tried to limit our technology, we learned to improve on yours. The tree-like council member leaned forward on its platform. You have violated the fundamental laws of galactic civilization. We've violated your laws, Q-Min corrected. The species you abandoned, the ones you called primitive and unworthy, they have their own ideas about civilization. On the display, the tide of battle was turning completely in humanity's favor. Council ships were surrendering rather than face conversion by the nanobots. Others were being boarded and their crews treated as prisoners of war rather than executed. General Wanshik commanded the boarding operations from the captured Council flagship. He had expected to find alien monsters, but instead he found beings not so different from humans. Scared, confused, and trapped by their own government's decisions. Stand. Down your weapons, he announced to the surrendering crew. You will not be harmed, but you will learn what it means to be free. The alien crew members stared at him in confusion. They had been told that humans were savage devourers who showed no mercy to their enemies. I don't understand, said the Bay. Ship's captain, a being with blue skin and 6 arms. We came to destroy your species. Why are you not killing us? Wanshik smiled. Because that's not what humans do. We win by making enemies into friends, not by making friends into corpses. Back in space, the Council fleet was in full retreat. Those ships that could still jump to hyperspace were fleeing the system. Those that couldn't were surrendering or being converted by the nanobots. Lieutenant Boram opened communications to the fleeing ships. This is Lieutenant Boram of the Human Defense Fleet. You came here to commit genocide. Instead, you've learned something about the species you tried to destroy. Her voice carried across space to every Council ship. We are not the devourers your legends speak of. We are builders. We take what is broken and make it better. We take what is dying and give it new life. Admiral Zektar, fleeing in one of the few Council ships still under alien control, received her transmission. What do you want? He asked. We want what we've always wanted, Boram replied. To explore the galaxy, to learn from other species, and to help where we can. The only difference is that now we're not asking for permission. In the Council chamber, Ambassador Haywan watched the reports coming in. The extermination fleet had been defeated, captured, or converted. Earth and its colonies were safe. You wanted to judge humanity, she said to the silent Council members. Instead, you've learned what we're truly capable of when you try to destroy us. She turned to face Zelthak directly. The age of the Council is over. It's time for something better. President Mi Kyung stood before the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The Great Assembly Hall orbited Earth, its transparent walls offering a view of the blue and green world below. Representatives from 43 different species filled the chamber, their various forms creating a tapestry of life that would have been impossible just 6 months ago. Welcome to the first meeting of the Interspecies Cooperative Assembly, she began, her voice translated into dozens of languages and communication methods. Today we begin something new. Not rule by the few over the many, but cooperation between equals. In the front rows sat the former Council species. They looked uncomfortable, unsure of their place in this new order. Behind them were the 17 species that humanity had been secretly helping, and behind those were dozens of others who had emerged from hiding once word spread that the Council's authority had ended. The Kythera representative, a being that looked like a walking crystal formation, raised one of its appendages. President Mi Kyung, many of us are still confused. You defeated our oppressors, but instead of taking their place as rulers, you invite them to sit as equals. Why? Mi Kyung smiled. Because ruling over others was never our goal. Our goal was freedom, not just for humanity, but for everyone. Ambassador Chang Wu stepped forward to address the former council members directly. You spent 50,000 years believing that order required control, that peace required domination. You were wrong. True peace comes from cooperation. True order comes from willing participation. Zelthak, the former arbitrator, flickered with uncertain light. Its crystalline form had dimmed considerably since the defeat of the council fleet. Your species confuses us humans. We expected revenge. We expected you to punish us for the attempts to destroy you. Revenge solves nothing, Chang Wu replied. It only creates new enemies. We prefer to solve problems by removing their causes. In the Assembly's medical bay, scientist Yuna was putting those words into action. She worked alongside Christine researchers to complete her greatest achievement yet, a cure for the genetic plague that had been slowly killing the Christine Empire for 2,000 years. The final test results are in, she announced to her mixed team of human and Christine scientists. The treatment is not only effective, it's permanent. Your children will never suffer from this disease again. Dr. Kelleth, the lead Christine researcher, chimed with frequencies that indicated deep emotion. Your people owe us nothing. We tried to destroy you, yet you save our children. I do not understand. Yuna looked up from her work. Understanding isn't required. Helping is what we do. It's who we are. The news of the cure spread through the assembly hall like wildfire. Species that had been enemies of humanity just days before now looked at the human representatives with something approaching wonder. The Mordon delegate, a being with thick gray skin and multiple eyes, spoke up. The humans ended our 3,000-year civil war in 6 months. They provided technology that gave both sides what they needed without requiring either to surrender. Now they cure our former enemy's genetic plague. What kind of species does this? A species that believes in tomorrow being better than today, Meek Young answered. A species that sees problems as puzzles to be solved, not justifications for war. Fleet Admiral Dae Jung provided the assembly with the most surprising revelation of all. Standing before the gathered delegates, he activated a holographic display showing the ancient beacon from Kepler 442b. We have completed our translation of the Vorthak message, he announced. We were wrong about what it said. The display showed the corrected translation, with new words highlighted in bright blue. The Vorthak were not warning about humans as devourers, Dae Jung continued. They were mourning. The message says, the gardeners have awakened too late. They spread knowledge like seeds across the void. They grow wisdom wherever they walk. They cannot be stopped by weapon or wall because they heal rather than harm. 50,000 cycles have passed since they first walked among the stars, but they did not reach us in time. We, the Vorthak, leave this message as our final gift. When the gardeners come to your world, do not resist them. Let them plant their seeds of hope. What we could not become, perhaps you still can. Silence filled the assembly hall as the implications sank in. The Vorthak were not warning against humans, Dae Jung said quietly. They were hoping we would find others before it was too late. For them, too. Zelthak's crystalline form brightened slightly. Gardeners, not devourers. This changes much. It changes everything, Meek Young agreed. The council saw chaos where there was growth. They saw threat where there was opportunity. They tried to create order by stopping change, but real order comes from managed change. Over the following weeks, the new cooperative assembly began to show results that amazed everyone involved. The Veltai brought their mastery of energy manipulation to help solve power shortages on a dozen worlds. The tree folk of Gendara shared their biological sciences to help heal damaged ecosystems. Humanity contributed their gift for adaptation and problem-solving, but the greatest surprise came from the former council species themselves. Released from the burden of maintaining control over the galaxy, they began to contribute in ways they had forgotten they could. The assembly's final session was held 3 months later. Explorer Hansol stood before the delegates to announce humanity's most ambitious project yet. "The Milky Way galaxy has been our home, but it is not our limit," she said. "Today we launch the first intergalactic expedition. Our destination is Andromeda. Our mission is to see what lies beyond our borders." The ship New Horizon hung in space, visible through the assembly hall's windows. It was unlike anything built before, a fusion of technologies from dozens of species, crewed by volunteers from 28 different worlds. Cultural ambassador. Mincio would be making the journey as humanity's representative. She addressed the assembly one final time before departure. 6 months ago, the Council tried to contain one species in one system. Instead, they created something they never imagined. Hope that spreads across the galaxy. Hope that every species can grow. Hope that every world can be better tomorrow than it is today. She gestured to the diverse crowd of delegates. The Council spent 50,000 years believing the galaxy was too dangerous for freedom, too chaotic for cooperation, too diverse for unity. They were wrong on every count. The New Horizon began to glow as its revolutionary drive system activated. A combination of human quantum tunneling, crystalline energy focusing, and Kythera dimensional manipulation that made faster-than-light travel. Seems slow by comparison. "The universe is vast," Mincio continued as the ship prepared to depart. "There are billions of galaxies, trillions of worlds, countless species we have yet to meet. Some of them might be like the old Council, afraid of change and growth. Others might be like the Vorthak, waiting for someone to help them become more than they are." The ship vanished in a flash of light, beginning its journey to another galaxy entirely. President Mi Kyung stood at the viewing window, watching the spot where the ship had disappeared. Around her, delegates from dozens of species were making plans for their own explorations, their own contributions to this new age of cooperation. "The Council called us unlawful," she said to Ambassador Chang Wu, who stood beside her. "They were right, in a way. We refuse to accept laws that say some species can grow while others cannot. We refuse to accept that order requires oppression." Chang Wu nodded. "We're gardeners," as the Vorthak said. "We plant seeds of possibility wherever we go." Mi Kyung smiled as she watched ships from dozens of worlds preparing to depart for their home systems, carrying new technologies, new ideas, and new hope. The galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. In the depths of space, the beacon on Kepler 442b continued to broadcast its ancient message. But now it had a new addition. A human transmission that would reach across the void to any species that might be listening. "This is humanity, speaking for the Interspecies Cooperative Assembly. We are gardeners of hope, builders of tomorrow, and friends to all who seek to grow. The universe is vast enough for everyone to thrive. Come find us when you're ready to bloom."